It's always a voting. So with HOA, I believe it's the October or November that there's always a yearly meeting. But people don't ever go to their HOA meeting. They just wait to get like a news blast letter glued to their door, to get update. But if you live in an area that has HOAs, you should go. Because if you don't like how certain things are done, certain individual that's coming to your yard, you could go and vote and complain. But people don't know that.
I think everybody's interested in hearing your Karen's story, Chia.
Yeah, I want to hear about this.
Yes,
Karen's
yes.
stories
Well,
are
it's
always
not,
good.
it's not my story. It's a content topic that I came over that I saw recently that went kind of viral. I wanted to share with everybody so that everybody knows the context of what happened. Because I don't think anybody understands how this works or they have questions about this.
This is the most insane HOA Karen ever. She enters private property and watch what happens next.
Knock, knock. Hi there, folks. My name's Jessica. I'm from the HOA.
Wait, you don't have an HOA.
I'm bringing a couple of citations over to you guys. I don't know if you didn't get the memo. You can't have 3 cars in your driveway. Ma'am, do you live here? Do you live in that RV out there? You look like the type that would live in an RV.
Hey, put your little camera on me. First of all, you need to back yourself out of my yard, or this dog will attack you.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you don't have a permit for that dog either. So
Is that crazy or is that crazy?
You look like the type to listen.
Yeah. What do you think?
What?
I don't think that dog's attacking anybody either, but I don't know. But anyways,
That looks like a really lovable dog, okay?
So let's talk about the elephant in the room. Because everybody that sees this video is either saying, oh man, I'm never buying in a HOA. Did you guys know that any home can become HOA implemented if some of the neighbors just comes together and decide they want to form one in your area? It doesn't have to be the street, doesn't have to be a community. It could just be a few number of homes. What I've learned is there's some areas, like especially in Rosemont, there's specific streets where it's only HOA in that street area. And then you go to other streets and it's like HOA doesn't cover that area. And you're like, what? And it's because some of the homeowners in that street decided they wanted to form an HOA for their street. So that way it keeps it clean. They have people watching, etc. Some people like it, some people don't. But it is possible to do that. All you gotta do is just go to the city and let them know that you're applying for an HOA in your area. You have enough people to be the board, you have people to oversee it, and you're gonna implement this and that, and they kind of take your application in and let you know what you need to do to get it going.
Okay, so what about the rest of the people? Let's assume you got a group of 5 people that recruited another 5 people. So now this HOA committee has like 10 people, right? And there's like a community of 200 people. What about the other 190? I was like, I bought this house because I didn't have to worry about HOA. How does that happen?
So it goes into voting. What happens is the city won't just allow you to do it for the sake of you wanting to do it. It goes into a voting, and if during that time the majority votes prefer HOA, then they're gonna get it. It's always a voting. So with HOA, I believe it's the October or November that there's always a yearly meeting. But people don't ever go to their HOA meeting. They just wait to get like a news blast letter glued to their door, to get update. But if you live in an area that has HOAs, you should go. Because if you don't like how certain things are done, certain individual that's coming to your yard, you could go and vote and complain. You know that? But people don't know that. That's why when you buy a home that has HOAs, lenders, what do they always ask for? They ask for the certifications, for like the insurance, how they're doing, how they're handling the money, what are they using the funds for, right? They ask for all of that. And each lender, if I remember this correctly, they have a different criteria for like the certain threshold ratio of the fundings that you have.
Basically, lenders are trying to see, okay, these are the HOA fees and everything like that. Could it increase? And if it does increase, does it put their investment really in jeopardy? Because does it put this person in a strain where it's like, okay, if this is going to continue to increase significantly and it's going towards this situation that's, needs to be paid paid off for in the HOA bill. That's basically what they're looking for.
So that's how HOAs are formed, and that's how HOAs work, okay? But going back to the video of this Karen, is she allowed to do that? It actually depends. If you read the HOA handout that they give you for your home, there could be set of rules in there that's in fine print that says they can or cannot do this.
Wow. Okay, so it's even more important if you do have a HOA Karen. So this guy really should be going to the meetings and everything and make a complaint.
I mean, she said a lot of things on there that is definitely gonna probably get her in trouble. So for that, I don't know. But for her walking in and giving out citations, that's what they do, you know that? They actually bring citations to you if you have a citation. And not just that, but because you have a citation, the whole community in that HOA knows you have the citation, which house you live at, everything. They let everybody know. They make an example out of you.
So I just realized that it was the Karen that actually posted this on Nextdoor.
Yeah.
So she incriminated her own self.
Yeah.
All this really prejudiced stuff.
Because she thinks she was in the right. She truly believed it. And so she posted it to prove her point, you know? And it might have also been posted on there to let everybody else know that they're on the lookout. So that's probably why she did what she did. But yeah, it definitely self-incriminated her. But yeah, you guys need to know what your HOAs allow and don't allow. Like, for example, this is what I see a lot. Investors come, they buy a home that has HOA, whether it's a condo, a duplex, or a house, and they rent it out or have the goal of renting it out. Comes to find out, HOAs change management quite frequently. So the last management allows you to rent a home, but this new one that's coming in doesn't allow rentals anymore. So if you're an owner and you have a tenant, you have to let them know that you're gonna sell the house or you're gonna come back and live in it, because they don't allow tenants to live in the HOA communities. So you guys need to watch out, investors that buy into HOAs, because that can happen. I have people that will buy a condo and we will call HOA for the sake of finding out if they could rent out the units and all that in the future, and HOAs will tell them, yeah, you got to be on a waiting list. There's like 200 other investors in front of you waiting to get approved for their unit to be next in line to be allowed to be rented out, because there's a certain threshold, a ratio, I believe, especially for FHA. If there's more tenants versus owner occupieds in that community, they will not lend on a unit in that community. Owner occupied needs to be higher by a certain percentage. What was it, 40%, 50%? But I think you guys could ask your specific lenders what that ratio is before you move forward, because sometimes sellers will put their homes on the market and don't even realize that their home doesn't qualify for FHA because there's too many tenants that live in that community complex that FHA has not certified it to pass certificates for FHA. I had a condo recently that had a hard time getting lending, period. Nobody wanted to lend it, even conventional, because there was so many renters in that complex that nobody wanted to lend on it. Why is that?
Here's the thing with HOA, okay, especially for condos. So HOA is a shared bill in that community. Condo means it's a condominium, whether it be 100, 200, basically almost like you're owning your own apartment, but they convert it so that you can actually own each apartment, but they call it a condo. You don't own the land. There's roof maintenance, there's landscape maintenance, there's parking lot maintenance and garbage and all the other stuff that they take care of normally in an HOA. So when there's a lot of renters and, you know, investors who don't always watch over the property and everything like that, the HOA bill, say for instance, it's $20,000. Everybody that lives there shares that. Every homeowner shares that. But let's just say for instance, if there's a condominium of about 200 people and 5 people do not pay that bill, guess who has to pay the bill? The rest of the tenants. So that 5 units gets divided and everybody else has to pay. Is that unfair or is that unfair? But in a tough market and everything, when 2008 hit, what ended up happening was more than 50% of the people weren't paying their HOA bills. So the other half of the people, now your HOA that was 400, now it's 800. Then it continues. So when there's more renters in that area, it is a higher risk that that could happen. And if that did happen, then it puts the homeowner in a very precarious situation. And as much as I would say lenders care so much about people, they don't. They care about their investment, which they're thinking, if these people can't even afford their HOA, how are they going to be able to afford their mortgage? That is why.
Another thing I do want to share too is she mentioned here that you don't have a permit, sir, to park 3 vehicles out there, and your RV is definitely definitely not permitted to be parked in the driveway. Some HOAs will not allow you to park more than 2 cars on the driveway, or have a RV or a boat parked in front too.
That's true, because it obstructs the neighborhood. And a lot of times people have these things like, that's not even fair. That's my property. That's my driveway. It's true. But if you live in a certain neighborhood that doesn't allow you to paint your house hot pink where everybody else is kind of it's kind of cool. But at the same time, when it's overly done and everything, and you feel like you're so restricted, even though you collect cars, you don't have enough garage space, you like to park your car out there, you can't. So when you buy a house in those types of communities, really read that fine print.
Yeah. Sometimes they don't even let you work on your vehicles or wash your car on your own driveway.
There's so many different things. I used to live in a community in Elk Grove like this about 10 years ago or so. It was basically exactly the same. You know, you can't have your lawn a certain height. You can't have your garbage cans. You can't have your vehicle. You can't have your garage door open. If you're going to have your garage door open, you can't do anything in it. You have to only have your cars in it. The funny thing is you bring this up. So I make fun of my wife all the time about this because she does this for a living. I like to joke her all the time and say that she's a Karen. So she doesn't actually hand these citations out to people. Obviously, we don't live in this HOA. We don't own a home in this HOA that she works at, but she works for a HOA company that manages these things, right? So the people come into the office and then they complain about, you know, whatever it was. So it's pretty crazy how often people don't really realize, you know, these rules and all these regulations. There's a lot of actual city ordinances that don't allow certain things to happen, right? So like, for example, having an RV or a boat or even like a dump trailer or something like that, you can't leave those things out in front of your houses for a certain amount of times also. It just depends on what city you're in and if the residents care enough or if there's someone coming around enforcing it and mentioning, hey, you can't do this, you can't park that there, you can't do this, you know. But some areas, even though it's city ordinance, the residents that are around don't care, or maybe there's not enough people, there's no enforcement arm that's going around and actually doing this, right? So I would never live in an HOA again, not ever in my life. I couldn't. I mean, and I like to keep a nice clean area and all that, and I'm not the type that would have these problems, and I like the idea of having some of these rules because there's a lot of people that abuse it, right? But there are so many ridiculous things that are part of these rules and regulations with these HOAs. Like I couldn't do it.
I mean, I don't think it definitely all bad. I mean, there's that spectrum, right? Where if you live in a really nice neighborhood, the parks are nice and everything like that, you want your property value to go up, which means it has to be kept and somebody has to enforce something to keep it that way, right? But at the same token, when it's overdone like this Karen here, and really for homeowners that are buying in these areas, really read those fine prints, know your rights. Like Chia said, go to the HOA meetings. I know it seems really super boring and everything like that, but if you don't stand up and vocalize, then how are you going to be able to vote for things like this not to happen?
Yeah, because sometimes they could just do a meeting, and because there wasn't a lot of people that was gonna vote against what they were gonna implement, they automatically win. So what they would do is, let's say they wanted to increase your HOAs by 20% because they're gonna use the increased funding to go towards a new clubhouse or a pool or hiring a security guy. What if you don't want any of that? Or you don't need any of that? You guys live in a really, really nice area already. It gets implemented because they don't have enough people that go to the meeting to make the votes count. It's good to pay attention to all that. Not just that, but you guys were talking about how back in the day, certain tenants didn't pay for their HOA dues and then the other rest had to pay for it. Now, if you don't pay your HOAs, your HOA could repo your home. There's actually a site for it. You could go and look it up, HOAs, foreclosures, and you could look up a specific HOA company, what inventory they have for sale.
That is really crazy. Yeah, I wonder how that would work.
Same way you would buy a foreclosure that has tax liens on it, that's at an auction. Because I think the same place that forecloses on properties for Sacramento here, they do all of that. They do the tax liens, they do HOAs, they do all of that, utilities. You just gotta find out what date they're holding it specifically for only HOAs.
I wonder how that would work, because when we talk about property taxes, that's directly to the county, the city, and whatnot. So once you pay that bill and everything like that, it's almost as if whatever loan that was on there is a wash, because that loan doesn't belong to you. But property tax is still property tax. If they're not paying the HOA, they most likely aren't paying the property tax too.
The same way if investor was buying a home that was foreclosed, right? They would have to to pay off whatever it is that's owed to the bank. And sometimes it's negotiable too with the bank, to where it might not be the full amount that they had initially wanted. It might be lower. So it's the same with HOAs. Sometimes these fees pile up, but just because you pay the HOA dues, there still might be a loan balance on it that will get negotiated as well. There was this investor that I follow, I forgot his name. He does that. He buys nothing but HOA repos. It's a thing, but people don't talk about it much. They talk about just pre-foreclosure. They talk about the tax liens. They don't talk about HOA repos. But that's it. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. We will catch you guys next time. All right. Peace out now.